Two really good young pitchers who don't strike out many batters faced off against each other and were really good pitchers and also struck out a lot of batters. Luckily, the Dodgers won this pitcher's duel. We'll talk about the huge roster moves that went on before the game, how they paid off during the game, Gavin Stone's awesome performance, Justin Turner's return, some thoughts on the bullpen. So much to talk about live, so let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. And thanks to those of you who are with us live here on Monday evening after the Dodgers beat the Mariners 3-0. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. So please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. If this is your first time with us, my name is Jeff Snyder. My normal co-host is Vince Samperio, although it's just me tonight. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like a lot of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room. So we bring you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And speaking of getting started, I see the chat is hopping, as the kids say. But before I even logged in, 15 minutes before we started this episode, there were already 30 comments in the chat. So I appreciate all of you being here. It's been a fun time. Dodgers won the game. It was a really, really good game. And we went to it knowing Gavin Stone is a good pitcher. He's had his struggles, but his last start was really good. We expected good things from him, especially against his Mariners offense. And, it's probably important to remember that we're grading a little bit on a curve because this Mariners offense isn't good. And we knew that Bryan Woo was a good pitcher, and I wondered if he might be the kind of good pitcher who the Dodgers could get to because he doesn't strike out a lot of guys. But both guys were really, really good at working the corners today. I'm going to dig into Gavin Stone's performance a lot in the second segment. But the big news of this day was how much different the roster looked tonight than it did last night. The Dodgers made multiple moves. We found out early Tuesday or early Monday, that Austin Barnes had a foot injury. We found out that he had an injury and the Dodgers were calling up Hunter Feduccia. And then later David Vassegh reported that it was a toe injury, that Austin Barnes took a foul ball off the toe in the third inning of Sunday's game, which wasn't correct. I watched all 17 foul balls that the Cardinals hit on Sunday. There was nothing anywhere close to Barnes' foot in the third inning. I'm 110% sure I found it. It was actually in the top or bottom of the sixth inning. The first pitch of the bottom of the sixth, Pedro Pages fouled one off that hit Barnes in the left toe. Not a lot of reaction for him, but you could tell that it hurt. And Pages, a fellow catcher, kind of patted him on the shoulder. And then turns out it was fractured. And so Hunter Feduccia is up. We also found out that Freddie Freeman's finger that he injured over the weekend is also fractured, but he was in the lineup. He's going to keep playing. He played really good defense in this game. Didn't get a hit, but no way to know if the finger, how much the finger's. Obviously, the finger's going to affect hitting. Doesn't mean that it will make a difference in the stats, but a hitless game doesn't necessarily mean he can't hit. That just means he didn't hit tonight. That's the nature of baseball. But we were happy to have a 6'5" first baseman back after we saw having a short first baseman bite the Dodgers in the ninth inning on Sunday when Austin Barnes' throw, Kike Hernandez couldn't quite keep his foot on the bag. We saw a couple plays today where Freddie Freeman being tall paid off really well. Really good defense, 2 or 3 plays that were game-changing plays and helped Gavin Stone out a lot. We also had Tommy Edman and Max Muncy both activated. Both of them had been on the 60-day injured list, which meant that they needed to clear up 2 40-man roster spots for those guys. The way they did that, one of them, they transferred River Ryan to the 60-day injured list. Look, I said it right, guys. Those of you everydayers, if you were with us yesterday, I struggled with that phrase, but I got it right this time. They transferred River Ryan. That opened up one of the 40-man roster spots, and then they also DFA'd Nick Ahmed, which was obviously what we expected there. The only question was how they were going to clear up the other 26-man roster spot. And they did that by optioning Andy Pages. As Vince and I talked about yesterday, that makes a lot of sense, even though I think long-term, Jason Hayward is the odd man out here. Basically what Dave Roberts said was, we could send Pages down without losing him if you send down somebody else. He didn't name Hayward by name, but everybody knew he was talking about Jason Hayward. The only way to get Jason Hayward off the active roster is to dump him, to drop him, or put him on the injured list. But, like I said yesterday, I wouldn't be surprised if they are actively, figuratively punching Jason Hayward in the back to flare up that injury. But if nothing else, Pages will be back in a couple weeks when rosters expand on September 1st. So then he'll be back. I think long-term, if one of Andy Pages or Jason Hayward is on the postseason roster, I think it will be Pages over Hayward, but I don't know that for sure. But that's kind of my thought of why it made sense to send Pages down, because you can always undo that. If Hayward has a back injury or a back injury in air quotes, Andy Pages can come back up immediately. But the opposite isn't true. If you dump Hayward and then Pages gets hurt, you don't have Hayward anymore. So that move made sense too. But it was kind of interesting when you looked. I was talking to my sons before the game, looking at the lineups, and Sunday's lineup to Monday's lineup, even though the end result didn't end up being much different, 3-0 versus 2-1, 3 runs versus 2 runs. But basically the Dodgers, from Sunday's lineup to Monday's lineup, they traded Austin Barnes, Kevin Kiermaier, Nick Ahmed, and Kike Hernandez for Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, Tommy Edman, and Will Smith, which it's a big upgrade. And obviously Smith is struggling right now. It's not the perfect lineup you would love, but that trade-off, it was amazing how much different the lineup looked. And then you look at the bench too today. Jason Hayward was clearly the worst player on the bench as far as, I don't know if these were the worst hitter. I think Hayward and Kiermaier would have to battle for that title, but Kiermaier has more defensive value. And then you got Hunter Feduccia and Kike Hernandez on the bench with them. So this was a solid team, and it's going to be nice to see them gel. And we saw the things pay dividends. Gavin Lux obviously has been awesome. He had 3 hits on Sunday, and then he had the huge hit in the bottom of the 7th inning. Bryan Woo had been cruising, and Gavin Lux knocked him for a home run, opposite field home run. It was kind of the platonic ideal of a Gavin Lux hit, the perfect Gavin Lux hit, a hard line drive to the left center field gap and hard enough to get over the wall. It was beautiful. And then Woo hits Will Smith with the next pitch. Woo's out of the game. Yimi Garcia comes in, and Max Muncy takes him deep for a 2-run homer. Boom. Suddenly it's 3-0. The Dodgers kept rallying. They put runners on, ultimately didn't score again that inning, but they showed some life there and got the runs they needed. And having, Tommy Edman got a hit in that inning and the stolen base. So with Muncy and Edman and Freeman's defense, all these guys back in the lineup, really, you could kind of see why people are excited about this team. And it's always more fun to win than to lose. And hopefully the Dodgers can keep that up, especially the Padres and the D-backs both won. So the Dodgers didn't gain any ground, but they didn't lose any ground. And when you're in first place, not losing ground is winning, because it's one more day off the schedule. It's one less day that the other teams have to try to catch up. So that's good. Hopefully the Twins and the Marlins can help us out and beat the Padres and the D-backs respectively. And the Dodgers can actually put some more ground between them, but we're feeling good there. Always good to win. I'm going to dig in more into Gavin Stone's performance in this game, because he was awesome. We're going to talk about grading on a curve and, the fact that even though the Mariners aren't a good hitting team, there were some things about this performance by Gavin Stone that really, really excited me. I'm going to dig into that. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. So again, all you have to do is bet $5 on FanDuel, and there's so many things. I was looking today, and I was looking at the World Series odds, and guess what? The Dodgers have the best odds according to FanDuel to win the World Series. They're at plus 350, Phillies at plus 480, Yankees at plus 550, Orioles plus 750, Astros plus 900, Guardians plus 1600. But the Dodgers, even at plus 350, if you believe the Dodgers are going to win, that means if you bet $100 and the Dodgers win the World Series, you get $350. Make those numbers bigger. If you want to make them bigger, all you got to do is bet $5, which means if they won, you would get, that's 3.5 times 5, 20, 15, $17.50. And you get your three-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, I am back. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday mornings. Thanks especially to our everydayers. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. Make that easy on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. You can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles on YouTube. Locked On Sports LA is where you can find the Locked On Dodgers postcast hosted by Pete Fox after most Dodger games. And catch every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app by searching for Dodgers. I caught about an inning of tonight's game on SiriusXM because I was in my car because I was driving my son to ask a girl to homecoming. And that's a tradition we have that I drive the getaway car for him. And so we listened. And during the commercial break, we got to hear my voice on a commercial for this podcast. It was like Inception or something. So check that out. Also, this is exciting news. If you are a Spanish speaker or a Japanese speaker, you can now find this podcast in your native language on YouTube and on podcast apps. The wonders of artificial intelligence. It's eventually going to kill us all, but right now, what it's doing is making this podcast available in my voice, speaking a language I don't speak. Like, I knew that they were working on this translation thing. The Locked On Podcast Network was working on this. I've been helping them. I submit the thing for translation after every episode every night. It never crossed my mind that it would be in my voice. It is crazy to hear my voice speaking flawless Spanish and then flawless Japanese. So check those out. It's pretty cool. But let's get back to talking about the Dodgers because that's why we're here. Gavin Stone. I'm just scrolling through the chat, seeing if there's anything that I see. There's a lot of talk about CB Buckner is going to be the home plate umpire in Tuesday's game. Yes, that's bad news. CB Buckner is a bad umpire, one of the worst. But that's okay. We'll save the complaining about CB Buckner for after he has a bad game, not before. Showtime didn't like that I said AI is going to kill us. It was a joke. I can't be killed by something as weak as AI. I have arms. Gavin Stone pitched in this game, and like I said, the Mariners are not a good hitting team. They're a bad hitting team. But that doesn't mean that you just discount any good pitching performance against them. And what I really liked about this, and partly we saw in Gavin Stone's last start against the Brewers, he was really good. And the Brewers are a good team. So we know that Gavin Stone is good. We've seen him be good against good teams and bad teams this year. And the thing that I really liked was his confidence and command with the changeup. And that isn't directly impacted by who the opponent is. Gavin Stone was throwing that changeup in any count with confidence, throwing it in the strike zone, throwing it, strike to strike, as Nomar calls it, strike the ball, where it starts in the strike zone, it gets a chase out of the strike zone. He was throwing exactly where he wanted it. Plus, he was locating the fastball. He threw 7 different pitches tonight and really had decent command or better with all of them. And so that is something, well, yes, you do have maybe more confidence to throw pitches when you know it's a poor hitting team, but that confidence can, like Gavin Stone, this version of Gavin Stone tonight could have beat any team in baseball because he was that good. His command was very, very good. And as we've seen with Walker Buehler and Bobby Miller and everybody else, command is king. Obviously, you have to have good stuff. You don't get to the big leagues without having good stuff. But once you're there, if you don't have command, you're not going to be successful. Bobby Miller has everything he needs to be successful except command right now. Gavin Stone's command right now tonight was awesome. And that's something that he can build on, and it will give him confidence for his next start. His next start will probably come against the Orioles, and that'll be a good test for him, because if he pitches against the Orioles the way he pitched tonight, he will be successful against the Orioles. He will be successful against the Yankees, the Astros, whoever you want to say. Gavin Stone, the way he pitched tonight, would be successful against anybody. And that's the thing that's why I don't like just looking at raw stats, raw numbers, and just discounting. Oh, he threw a shutout against the White Sox. That doesn't count. Well, how did he pitch? And in this game, 10 strikeouts. The Mariners, it wasn't that they were up there flailing. Gavin Stone made really, really good pitches. He probably wouldn't have had 10 strikeouts against a better hitting team, but he would have had his fair share of strikeouts and his fair share of weak contact and all those things that make for a successful outing. And so that was really exciting for me, because I'm a huge Gavin Stone fan. Everydayers know I've always been a huge Gavin Stone fan. I drove down to California last year to watch his major league debut because I was that excited about him. Excuse me, needed to hydrate. It's when you're doing a solo episode, sometimes you got to take a sip of water. I made the 661-mile drive to Dodger Stadium last May, to watch Gavin Stone's major league debut. That's how excited I was about him. It did not go well. They did win the game on a Max Muncy walk-off grand slam off of Craig Kimbrell. That was fun. Gavin Stone struggled last year. I never lost faith in him. I knew he was going to be, and I said it in spring training, Gavin Stone was a guy to watch. And we've seen it this year, not all year. He did go through that stretch, but he has been really, really good because he has great stuff. And that changeup, I'm a huge fan of a great changeup. And I just saw a chat. Bingo, keep telling the Dodgers front office analytics alone doesn't tell anyone they need to know about baseball. That's the thing, Pika Peep. Analytics will tell you, because analytics does tell you how good a guy's stuff is, where he's locating it. I was saying box scores don't tell you everything you need to know. But analytics, and you do need the eye test. But no baseball front office in the league believes that analytics can tell you everything. But it's basically just an established, proven fact at this point that the better a team is with analytics, the more successful they are. The last time a non-analytic team won the World Series was a long time ago. I had brown hair back then. That's how long it's been. Analytics matter, but you like anything, you have to focus on the right analytics. I think most arguments against analytics come from not understanding what analytics means as far as how Major League Baseball teams actually use them, because they measure everything they can, and more information is never a bad thing, except when you use the wrong information or implement the wrong stuff instead of the right stuff. But anyway, Gavin Stone, great game for him. Joe Kelly came in. I was having a conversation with somebody in Clint's Discord group about Joe Kelly and how much better he is in clean innings. And I don't think it's a coincidence that a couple times in the last few days, we've seen Alex Vesia warming up in the bullpen when it looked like a starter might get pulled in the middle of an inning. And then when the starter gets through the inning, Vesia sits down and Joe Kelly gets up. It seems like they have decided Joe Kelly is not a mid-inning reliever, or at least not a guys on base reliever. Joe Kelly in clean innings, I think, is the person we want to take. And he's got the good enough stuff. And maybe, we were throwing around theories. Maybe he's more confident throwing his off-speed stuff when he doesn't have to worry about a wild pitch or whatever it is. But Joe Kelly has looked really good at times recently. And maybe the clean inning thing is a big deal for him. Evan Phillips came in, got the save, looked great. Just all in all, they got to rest Michael Kopech. Like I said yesterday, I assume he'll be down again on Tuesday. And I bet the Dodgers would like to stay away from Kopech on Wednesday too, to give him 4 full days off with the day off on Thursday before he comes back. But we'll see how that goes. Obviously, it would be nice for the Dodgers to score some runs, a bunch of runs, so that Ben Kasparius can get in a game and maybe, get a 3-inning save. That's going to depend on Walker Buehler not imploding. This will be the big test tomorrow when we look at Walker Buehler pitching against the Mariners. It's like the really movable force meets the really breakable object. Yeah. Who's going to break? Is it Walker Buehler going to accidentally pitch well, or the Mariners going to accidentally hit well? Only time will tell. I'm going to come back in a minute. I'm going to talk about Justin Turner's return. I'm going to talk about Chris Taylor's rehab. I'm going to talk about maybe some more bullpen thoughts. And yeah, so thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. And please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the excitement and win up to 100 times your money watching sports with PrizePicks. PrizePicks, you could turn $10 into $1,000 while watching your favorite sports. You can make a PrizePicks lineup of players across sports in as little as 60 seconds. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5, even if you don't win. And get 4 weeks of free W's because 1 passing yard from Caleb Williams gets you 1 win on PrizePicks every week in September. PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code, all lowercase, LOCKEDONMLB in the PrizePicks app for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, run your game. Hey, I'm back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. We got a good chat going on here. If you're not watching this live, we're going live most evenings these days, so check it out. We're usually about 35 minutes after the Dodger game ends. Pete does the postcast immediately when the game ends. We give you a minute to switch channels, and then boom, we're going here, and it's a lot of fun. So hope you'll check that out. But if you can't do it at night, thank you for making us your first listen in the morning, whether you're on YouTube or listen on the podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. Be sure to go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can text directly with us, get our thoughts, news, all that stuff. It's a lot of fun. Just a few bucks a month, free 14-day trial. Check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles on YouTube. For your second listen, check out Locked On MLB, hosted by Sully, covering all of Major League Baseball, and catch every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app. Manuel, did I just say weekend morning? I don't know. Did I? I meant weekday morning. We don't do weekend mornings unless something crazy happens. We did hop in on the weekend when the Dodgers signed Shohei Ohtani. I know we've done a few weekend episodes, but mostly weekday mornings. So sorry if I misspoke. I do that sometimes. Justin Turner was back in LA. He talked with the media a lot. They had a presentation. The Dodgers donated $10,000 to the Justin Turner Foundation. It's fun to see Justin and Courtney and their little baby Bo on the field. All of JT's old teammates obviously love him. Everybody loves Justin Turner. It was awesome to have him back. He got a good ovation before his first at bat in the second inning, and great to see Justin Turner. It's a tough situation because Justin Turner wasn't ready to leave when he left the Dodgers, and you can tell that he's still not bitter, but I think he was hurt by the way things ended. But the fact is, they didn't have room at first base, and so he was going to be a DH. He wasn't a third baseman anymore. He was going to be a DH, and it came down to who would we rather have, Justin Turner or JD Martinez. JD Martinez will take a 1-year deal. Justin Turner is looking for a longer-term deal, and the Dodgers, I'm sure, had their eyes on the free agency market and knowing, okay, if we sign Justin Turner to a 2-year deal, well, what do we do when we want to sign Shohei Ohtani? So all these things play into it. And, baseball is a business, unfortunately, but this is something that, Turner did say he's open to the idea of retiring as a Dodger, whether that is the Matt Kemp version that Kenny mentions here, Matt Kemp signing the 1-day contract and retiring as a Dodger, or JT actually coming back to the Dodgers. It's hard to see that except as a bench player, just a bat off the bench. I don't know if current roster constructions really allow for a guy who is just a pinch hitter, especially when he can't run fast, so he can't be a pinch runner too. So yeah, but Justin Turner will be back with the Dodgers in some capacity at some point, someday, because he loves the Dodgers. The Dodgers love him. Dodger fans love him. So it was really nice to see him back. I was glad he got a good reception. Just glancing at Carlos says JD Martinez is objectively a better hitter. Also, yeah, that's the other part. Like JD Martinez, the fact that he was willing to take a 1-year contract and was the better hitter, they may have been, sentimentality may have been enough to keep JT if it had just been which one's a better hitter, but if they were both willing to take 1-year contracts. But yeah, combine those two and it was a no-brainer decision. And we saw it worked out. JD Martinez had a great season for the Dodgers, and then he moved along. Chris Taylor is on a rehab assignment, and Dave Roberts said that he could join the Dodgers within the week, which would be really interesting because we haven't really talked about Taylor much since he got hurt because you don't really know when he's going to come back. Maybe they would wait. I've been trying to think when rosters expand on September 1st, they can add 2 players, and both of them could be hitters. They can't add 2 pitchers because the number of pitchers only goes up to 14 that you're allowed, but you can stick with 13 pitchers and go to 13 and 15 position players when rosters expand to 28. So I wonder if it would just be Andy Paez and Chris Taylor, if they'll hold off. That's the thing. Like looking at the dates, we're still 13 days, 12 days away from rosters expanding. So if Chris Taylor comes back within the week, well, then you kind of have to say, okay, Jason Hayward, I'm sorry, but your back hurts, or somebody, because there's nobody else really like Kevin Kiermaier. I think he's earned a chance between his defense, his attitude, his hitting being better. I think he's going to stick around at least for a little while. And so I'm not sure if there's room for Chris Taylor to come back when, before rosters expand. And if it was, if they put Jason Hayward on the IL and bring in Chris Taylor, that is a marginal upgrade. I don't know what to expect from Chris Taylor. He definitely had gotten better. He was really, really bad at the beginning of the season. Like that is the understatement of the year to say Chris Taylor was really bad at the beginning of the season. But then he did get solid. He was a solid player to the point where when he got hurt, it was actually a bad thing for the Dodgers. But I still, when I think about the postseason roster, especially now that Tommy Edman's on the team, it's hard to picture Chris Taylor and Kike Hernandez both on the postseason roster because the role they fill is very similar. And it's also similar to what Edman fills. So I don't know that there's room for both Kike and Taylor on the postseason roster, but if they can work it out to get him on the roster in September, then those 2 guys can battle for that spot. And whether it's, no bad can come from Chris Taylor and Kike Hernandez both playing for their playoff lives because worst case scenario, they both played really well and you have to decide which one to not put on the postseason roster. You know what? 2 players playing really well. That's a good problem to have for a team. Obviously Andy Paez will be fighting for his playoff roster spot too. I still think he's more likely to have that spot than Jason Hayward because Jason Hayward can provide everything he brings to the table. He can bring from the bench as a guy who's not on the postseason roster and is just there for his veteran presence. And Andy Paez could actually bring some baseball ability. But we'll see what happens. But Chris Taylor, it's going to be an interesting thing. The other thought on the bullpen that I wanted to touch on really quick, Blake Treinen is coming back on Tuesday, which is good. We'll see what they do. I still wouldn't be surprised at all if Daniel Hudson goes on the IL with I'm tired muscle or something because he's been struggling lately, and I think he could use the 15-day break. So I'd be surprised if they just slot Treinen in to take that spot. And the bullpen is really in a decent place right now, considering where they are in this string of 13 straight games. This was 11 of 13. And, Kopech is down right now, unavailable at least tonight and probably unavailable Tuesday and maybe Wednesday. But other than that, they've got, Evan Phillips has been a little bit overworked, but they've got Alex Vesia, they've got Anthony Bonda, they've got, guy they have Ben Kasparius, who is fresh, and, hopefully they'll find a situation to put him in. So all things considered, I think they've done a pretty good job of managing this bullpen and keeping them in a good spot, all things considered, that they, I'm just looking at the chat really quick. Kenny's upset about some move. I'm not sure which one it is. Maybe still Ahmed Rosario. Yeah, I don't know what to tell anybody about Ahmed Rosario. The fact that the Rays gave him away and the Dodgers DFA'd him tells you that something's going on there where teams don't think he's a very good player, no matter what the stats say, apparently. So we'll see. Anyway, a lot going on Monday, and it ended in a Dodgers win, 3-0 win. Great pitching performance from Gavin Stone, great from Joe Kelly, great from Evan Phillips, and enough from the offense. Gavin Lux, Max Muncy coming up big. Tommy Edman making an impact. Shohei Ohtani had the other hit for the Dodgers. That's the only 4 hits the Dodgers had. And hopefully they can do a little bit better. Bryce Miller for the Mariners is also a good pitcher. I don't think he's as good as Bryan Woo, but I think the Dodgers will have a better chance of working walks, getting up the pitch count against Miller, and hopefully they can take advantage of that and make him pay, and then make the bullpen pay. Get some runs, get some more wins, and hopefully the Twins and Marlins can help us out too in the standings. That's going to do it for me, I think. I'm going to, So thank you for being here with me live. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. You can make that easy on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. Go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. You can text directly with us, get our thoughts before the podcast, have one-on-one conversations. It's a lot of fun. Be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the 2 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On Sports LA is where you can find the Locked On Dodgers postcast, hosted by Pete Fox after almost every Dodger game. For your second listen, check out Locked On MLB, hosted by Sully. It's a lot of fun covering all of Major League Baseball. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSince91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog. Both of our DMs are open there. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message to 323-863-LOCK, 5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.